And we're off. Welcome to another edition of the Ugly Couch Show. We've been on hiatus as we got a blanket over it now. My name is Michael,
I'm Stephanie,
and we're here to talk about ADHD for our website.
and I have ADHD. Is that important?
I suppose it is.
Well, part of the thing that we want to talk about is some of the steps of dying.
Really?
No, not really. Well, it is a step in the dealing with death process, but often we have to deal with sort of a death within ourselves because we have a definition of who we are before we're diagnosed with ADHD, and then we have to have an acceptance of who we are as the time goes by. So it is kind of about a symptom of death. The symptom is called denial. Now you get where I'm going?
A little bit.
So what is denial, Michael?
It's a river in Egypt. Denial is saying something isn't so. Say, for example, I deny that this house is a mess.
Excuse me. It's pretty clean.
Yeah, it actually is.
There's just a dress on the floor and some boxes. We're cleaning it because we're getting anyway. Alright, so there's a few different types of denial according to Wikipedia. The first one is called simple denial. So basically denying the reality of unpleasant facts. Now why do you think people do that?
Because people don't like unpleasant things, so they'd rather play the mental trick of denying that it even exists. For example, I could deny that my toe got injured, thus continuing on.
But why would people want to deny the fact that they have ADHD?
Well, because ADHD has a lot of stigmas associated with it. And, they don't want to be treated, as a second-class citizen or someone who can't be trusted.
Yes. It can be really hard to have ADHD, especially when you're first diagnosed. Because you're like, what is this? Why do I have it? What's the point of it? Is the doctor just trying to make up some new disease to, keep his job and push another pill? And then you decide, I don't have it. He's a weirdo. What does he know? He's a quack. So that's one way of thinking, and it's just completely denying that you have ADHD. The next one is to minimize.
Minimize.
Sorry. I half said the word, stopped to think about it, and then said the last part. Anyway, but to minimize. To admit you have it, but deny that there's, that's going to affect you in any way. Why is that a bad idea?
Well, I guess it is a core part of who you are, to some extent. And if you try and minimize it, could lead to bad things. I guess one thing, just reading an article the other day on parenting or whatever, and minimizing the impact your kid would have by bringing him or her to a party. In that, oh, yes, people might say it's no bother, but hey, there's a kid there, and it's going to change up the dynamics. So, yes, ADHD changes up the dynamics like a cute little kid.
You're saying I'm a cute little kid? No patting! Alright, yes, that's a big part of it. Denying that, it's not life or death type of situation. Though it can definitely change your life. I mean, for instance, if I deny that my impulsivity, oh yeah, I'm impulsive, but it doesn't do anything. But I've got this big pile of shiny things, and it keeps getting higher and higher and higher. What? I got shiny things. What does he have to do with anything?
Remember the pile of shiny things? I piled them on top of.
Yes, I hated you for it. You made this ginormous pile on my dresser. It was his art project. It was an ode to Stephanie. But anyway, moving on. The next one is to project. Admit the fact, admit the seriousness, but deny any responsibility. Stop looking at my notes.
I deny it.
But why is that bad? Being able to admit that it's serious and admit that it's a fact, but deny the responsibility and start blaming people.
I'm not sure I follow you. Please give an example.
So, like, for instance, I have ADHD. Oh, shocker. Anyway, I'm procrastinating. I don't want to clean my room. So instead, I sit there and don't do anything and say that it was all my sister's fault who lives in my room with me, that this mess is all over the place, and demand that she cleans it up. Then she gets mad at me because that's my mess, that's my mess, that's my mess, and there's her mess. So instead I blame her and say she did it. She did that on purpose. She put my piles there. So I'm making her take the responsibility. Then I made her clean it. And then she gets mad at me. And thus I get out of it. I start to cry. My mother takes me out of the room. So now she has to take full responsibility to do all the cleaning.
Aren't you a conniving little daughter?
Only with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of mean. I admit it. But why is that bad?
Well, I guess it's bad because you're not taking personal responsibility and just searching for any excuse or other person to blame it on why things are a mess, whether it be a physical mess, mental mess, professional mess, or lots of messes.
Mm-hmm. So people deny when they can't cope with reality. Would you say that's true?
No. Of course it's true. It's very human, whether they be ADHD or not, to, gee, I don't like my reality. Let's escape to a nice little fantasy world and enjoy things there. And yes, escaping from time to time is okay. Nice little breather, a little break. But it's when you choose to live and continue on living in a
La La Land.
La La Land and denying your responsibilities in this real world, that things really get messy.
Agreed. So how can we recognize and address our ADHD? The first thing we need to do is actually see the patterns that are going on. I know it's really hard, but sometimes we have to accept the negatives, correct?
Correcto mundo.
Like, what kind of negatives do we need to look for, Michael?
Oh, I thought you didn't want me going into negatives, but...
Not normally, but in this case, sometimes you do have to look at the negatives before you can see the positives.
All right. Well, a negative could be unfinished projects, where you get the spark, desire to do something, and then it doesn't happen. Or there's the giving in to the complete overwhelm on a big project or cleaning task or
and saying,
professional,
screw it.
and saying, screw it, I can't possibly do anything, or falling into the perfectionist trap, which is, if I can't do this well and perfectly in my dream world, then why even bother? Versus just starting with a little bit.
And it's really tough because you want to deny that you can do no wrong, correct?
Correct.
I mean, nobody wants to do wrong. Everybody wants to keep doing the right thing all the time.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
You're bound to screw up sometime.
Of course.
Aw, you're so cute. Because, like, you also have to look at the people you hurt as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, for instance, telling your landlord I can't pay the rent because I spent all my money on a shiny new driving car motorized thingy I play with my fingers.
Okay.
Now he wants his money.
Yeah.
I hurt him because he doesn't get his money.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened to me, by the way.
No, we're thinking of another friend.
Where, for instance, like, you're supposed to get a job. And, sorry, Michael has to play with the computer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're supposed to get a job. And instead, you go spend all your life savings on the casino and the Stampede and come back broke. You can't pay your roommate, can't pay people, but hey, you had fun! That hurts people, right? So you gotta look at the way you're hurting either one, others, or two, yourself. And I'll sort of help you face your denial.
Mm-hmm.
You don't agree?
I agree.
Why are you making a funny face?
I make lots of funny faces. I'm just looking at the video megabytes and such.
Okay, the next thing you need to look at is how much you're blaming people. The blame game. It's because this happened. They made me. Why is that a bad thing?
Well, it goes back to escaping reality and denying personal responsibility. Yes, you can't. You're not God in your own world, but you still have a fair amount of responsibility for getting yourself in the mess or whatever you got yourself into, and you've got some power to get yourself out, whether it's through your own struggles or asking other people. And yeah, like, you know, we're all adults, and it's time to play in the adult garden or whatever you want to
You
call it.
could still be a child, though, at heart.
You could still be a child at heart, but at some point you got to grow up and say, hey, mommy and daddy may not have been perfect and raised me up right. They may have done lots of mistakes that affected who I am, but I am who I am, and I'm taking responsibility for it, and there's things that I can change about myself, or not change about myself, but I can still adapt and do whatever is best in this world.
Like, honestly, yes, my dad took me off my medication. I'll agree to that. I'll agree I'd got horrible, horrible grades. But I will never agree that it was all his fault why I got a C in one of my classes. I never blame him for it. Because really, it's me. If I wanted to go back on my medication, I would have begged him to go back on, and I would have gotten back on. Let's be honest. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't blame him for that. But I can blame myself for almost losing my job. Because I didn't do my paperwork. I wasn't able to focus and concentrate. I'd say mean and impulsive things. And I had to finally accept, yes, you still have ADHD. No, you didn't grow out of it. Yes, you need to be on your medication so you can figure out how to build your skills. They don't build your skills, but it helps you to figure out how to build your skills. I like that part. But, you know, they can't make you do anything. People are not guilty of your behaviors. You are guilty of how you react to what they do. Correct?
Correct.
Name an example. I put him on the spot. I like it.
You did put me on the spot, and I'll need some help from you to help get me out of this spot that I'm in a blank slate in my mind.
Like, for instance, you didn't accomplish all your paperwork you were supposed to accomplish. The boss yells at you, and you think that she's mean, ignorant, and arrogant. And she had no business yelling at you because you planned on getting that paperwork done.
Okay, continue.
So, how is that situation incorrect?
Well, there's the objective fact that the paperwork did not get done. There's the subjective, our judgment thing, saying, hey, boss did this, boss did that, boss was acting like this, and it made me feel this way, and that's subjective and depends on our own feelings and whatnot. But objectively, the expectation was the paperwork gets done by a set time, and it didn't happen.
And there's reasons why the paperwork had to get done. The boss reacted the way she did because you failed to meet her expectations. She did let you know the expectations. You didn't do it. Therefore, whose fault is it that the boss overreacted? According to you, overreacted. Whose fault? Honey?
Well, there's two responsibilities. Yes, the boss has her own responsibility to herself, but you have your own responsibility on how you respond to her reactions to you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the other thing is mirroring. A lot of times we will see behaviors in ourselves that we see in other people that piss us off. So, like, for instance, let's say you have a boss that's completely disorganized and throws everything at you the week before you're supposed to do it, and it turns out to be crappy because it's not really organized, it's not planned well enough in advance, and you don't have the projects all done, and it turns into fiasco. You're mad at her, but you also procrastinated that whole week and didn't do your assignments until the Monday, stating she didn't give you enough time. So you're basically not giving yourself enough time to even work on what she wants you to work on, even though she gave you a week. What do you think about that one?
Well, one thing in life that I try to follow, I can't remember who said it, many people have, but definitely the faults I find most annoying in others, I know from personal experience.
There you go. Okay, another way you can get over your denial of your ADHD is talk to others who do not have ADHD, who can see the perspective of who you are without, any of the judgments that you have about yourself. How is that helpful?
Well, in some ways it puts a mirror to ourselves because we as human beings, unless we see a reflection, we can't really see ourselves, can't see the thing that's stuck in our teeth or something like that. So we need others to kind of help give us a perspective, be a bit more objective on how we see ourselves and whether we're overreacting or underreacting, and just help balance out the perspective a bit.
I like your answer. That means we can move on. ADHD is a diagnosis. It isn't who you are or who you will be. True or false?
True.
Good answer.
I guessed.
You guessed.
Though I couldn't remember the full question.
So having ADHD is a part of you, but it isn't you. That's very important to realize. Just because you have ADHD doesn't mean there isn't a way to fix it or to help it. Some people, they use natural therapies and they find that works for them. I tried using a natural therapy while I was waiting to get medicated. The natural therapy helped a little bit, but it didn't help enough. It just made my brain go a little bit better. I was able to think a little bit better, but not like amazingly better. So I tried it. I tried like omega-3s and then B12, B6, and then added ginkgo and ginseng for good measure, and a whole bunch of vitamin D. And although it helped for a little while, it didn't do as much as I wanted it to, and I couldn't stand taking that many pills.
It still helps.
If it was all in one pill, life would be easier, but it's not. You can use, like some people, they use just therapy, sometimes working on skills and having a coach. That works great. They work on your little skills, whatever. In my case, for now, I don't know if it'll be forever, but for now, I need medication. It's like when I take my glasses off. I'm looking at the screen that we're currently being taped into, and Michael has no eyes. I can see his eyebrows, but I can't see his eyes. And when he puts his mouth down, I can see his mouth. When he opens his mouth, I can see weird white things, but he looks kind of like a weird vampire dog thing. When I put my glasses back on, I can see his nose, I can see his face, I can see his cheekbones. Medication's like that for me and for many other people with ADHD. It's not a weakness to need it. Am I correct?
Correct.
Adjustments. So anyway, those things are very important to realize. Once you are able to accept you have ADHD, life will go better for you. And I think next time we will discuss another one of the symptoms of the grieving process, because it is a grieving thing. When you find out you have ADHD, you're like, no, no, I don't have it. Quack, total quack. But yes, anyway, in conclusion, in order to help yourself, you need to know yourself. Am I right?
Right.
You need to know your weaknesses, and there are big strengths in ADHD, which we have gone over. But there are little weaknesses in ADHD too. It doesn't mean that they can't be conquered, or you can't put systems in place, or heck, you just hired a maid. Hire a maid. I want a maid. I want a maid. Anyway. What, you had a teddy bear. See? They match. Anyhow, so the main part is, if you know who you are, you can help yourself. If you deny who you are, then guess what? You're going to stay with the weaknesses. You're going to stick to all the problems that you have, and you're never going to want to move forward. So basically, you're going to go on an escalator where the stairs keep going up, but you're standing still, so you're going to keep going to the bottom.
That was always a fun game to play.
Yes, it was. Anyway, I'm Stephanie. I have ADHD.
I'm Michael, your supportive and loving husband.
He doesn't have ADHD.
Somewhat.
He has procrastination syndrome.
My dad wrote a book on it. He actually did. Anyways, we're signing off, and join you next time.
For the next chapter.